Hey everyone, Editor Kevin here. Just popping in real quick to give a heads up. This episode has really major spoilers for Out of the Abyss in it, like dissecting like major mechanics and behind the scenes things. So if you're a player in that campaign or know you're going to be, you might want to give this one a pass. There's also some vague spoilers for Storm King's Thunder and Rise of Tiamat, but not as serious. Anyways, on with the show. It's like, so you're not going to like be walking through. It's like, oh, in this infinite realm of chaos, there's a bunch of snakes around. Oh, how crazy. It's like the entire area is crazy. This entire realm is crazy.
It's like the craziest thing that they've seen in weeks. Just walking along like, oh yeah, the abyss really not as chaotic as, oh my god, is that an overabundance of lizards, poisonous snakes, and other venomous beasts? Oh my.
Welcome to Monsters and Multiclass, your Dungeons & Dragons fix. I'm Kevin Odie.
I'm Jared Bornigal.
And I'm Will Meldon.
And we'll be hanging out with you for a while to talk about anything and everything D&D related. On this episode, we are continuing our Demon Lord series with the Demogorgon, the Prince of Demons, Demon Lords. Do your thing, Jared.
Okay. You can never tell when you're done. You like the trail off.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just to give a little disclaimer at the start here, when we cover these creatures, we stick very much so to the written lore in D&D 5th edition. There is tons and tons of lore throughout the life of the Demogorgon, I think ranging back to Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. It's a lot, and if you want to look at like an actual breakdown of the lore because you want to use it in your campaign and you want to stick very closely to that established history and lore, there's probably better options. But if you want to learn how to use it in your campaign, fit it into Forgotten Realms lore or just your homebrew world, whatever, then this is going to be great, as well as running fights with it and making sure that that is an interesting conclusion to your campaign. Because if this is used for anything other than a conclusion to your campaign, I don't know what type of game you're running, but please send me an invite.
The Demogorgon, the random encounter.
Yes.
Jeez. Yeah, so the Demogorgon. So the Demon Lords, just to recap real quick, we cover this more in the Baphomet episode, are the most powerful demons. Yes, the thing. Demons are born out of the abyss, a realm of infinite chaos, and as ones survive, and they will continue to grow stronger and mutate. Some get to be very powerful, could exert their will over other demons, and become demon lords. There's a whole bunch of them out there. There's like a small handful that's known in the official lore and in like the scholars who track them because they have the mind to actually try and invade the material realm and have cults on the material realm and interact with the material realm in various different ways. The Demogorgon is considered to be the Prince of Demons. Out of all the known demon lords, the strongest one, the most dangerous. He is the embodiment of pure chaos, which to call that out for a demon is a big deal because demons are just that. Anyways, so like out of the embodiments of pure chaos, the Demogorgon, not the Demogorgon, it's a name, Demogorgon is the embodiment of chaos. So it's like extra layers of chaos, I guess. The embodiment of chaos, madness, and destruction, seeking to corrupt all that is good and undermine order in the multiverse, to see everything dragged howling into the infinite depths of the abyss. He's a meld of different forms with it's a saurian lower body, which I had to look up. It's basically just lizard. I'm not even actually sure if I'm saying that right. Saurian, saurian lower body. Clawed webbed feet and a well-suckered tentacle sprouting from the shoulders of a great ape-like torso, surmounted by two hideous simian heads named Amel and I practice this pronunciation, I've lost already. Hathradea, both equally mad. Their gaze brings madness and confusion to any who confronts it.
Ooh.
So it's basically, the Demon Lord of like madness, which is all demons, so top guy.
I like how even though the Demogorgon, it is so weird to not say the Demogorgon, but
It's because of Stranger Things.
I guess so.
That was always the Demogorgon.
Sure. Yeah. Either way, Demogorgon is the prince of demons, as you mentioned, not the king. Like, despite everyone saying, like, yeah, they're the top dog, but it's like, no, not king. Just because that's too much, I guess. They're prince.
Yeah, I wonder if it has to do with it's not it is very much a contested throne. Like there's no consensus here. It's just in general that a Demogorgon is considered to be the strongest, the most powerful, the most dangerous, the one who's most willing and able to exert his Demogorgon
it
gender.
Specifically gives a gender to the Demogorgon, Demogorgon,
to
Sir Demogorgon of the Abyssal Plains.
Right. Yeah, to exert his control over other demons. But all the demon lords kind of hate each other, and they're always fighting for control and always trying to take the other one out, and Demogorgon is not above that or immune to it. So maybe that's what they're going for. We're saying king is like too definitive.
Maybe. And it also, when we went over Baphomet, described as the prince of beasts. So, like, it does have more prince titles. I don't know if that's going to see... If we're going to see a consistent theme where it's like all of them are princes or princesses, maybe?
I can't see that with the female demon lords being princesses. That doesn't sound right.
No, they'd probably just go straight to queen, because that sounds more intimidating.
Yeah, maybe that's all it is. Like, prince has like the connotation of like little wheeling and dealing, and
king just sounds like a wrestler. Like every time we're like,
or like super just like regal, and it's like, yeah, king, where it's like prince is like still like fighting to get there. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we might be looking too much into it. You want to talk about the stat block so we can save ourselves from this conversation?
Sure. I guess Zuktmoy is really the only
female presenting demon lord.
Yeah. It does not. I'm quickly scanning. I'm not seeing princess or queen anywhere. But we will eventually get to her. She's last in the alphabet, so it's going to be a while.
Yes, but don't worry, listener. We'll get to the bottom of this. And if you want to make sure you're along for the entire ride of us figuring out why they use prince, then make sure to subscribe to the show. I know we've given 0 useful content so far, and we're like 5 minutes in. But you stick with us, and it's going to be magic.
Yes. So, stat block.
Yes.
Take it away with the first part.
All right, so we've got a CR26 creature here, and definitely stats to back that up with a armor class of 22, hit points of 406, speed of 50, and then a swim speed of 50, which I guess it's kind of interesting to me that that's specified it has a swim speed. It's not like that comes up more beyond the fact that it has tentacles.
It definitely comes up. It's like its lair. Half of it's underwater.
Oh.
And then when you see it show up in like pre-written stuff, water is often used out of the abyss, early on out of the abyss. Spoiler here, I guess. But remember when he shows up in that, it's from the lake, and then it's always a danger of going back on the lake. And
yeah. Okay, so there's some water tie-ins here.
Yeah.
Strength, we've got 29, just 1 point away from being the theoretical max, I guess, of strength. Dex 14, Constitution 26, Intelligence 20, Wisdom 17, and Charisma 25, with saving throws in Dexterity, Constitution, Wisdom, and Charisma. So just really running the board there. For skills, we have Insight of plus 11. Very important, because the Demogorgon will always know if somebody is lying or what their true intentions are. It's important, I guess, as the Prince of Demons. And then Perception of plus 19, which we kind of talked about, I think, on Baphomet, of like, it had a high perception, probably only useful in trying to find a rogue, but doing the math, it was like, okay, it's still probably never going to find a hiding rogue. Plus 19... I feel like that's actually pretty reasonable to roll, a 35 or something. Then we got damage resistances of cold, fire, and lightning, and damage immunities of poison, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing that is non-magical. Anything to comment there?
Nope.
I got nothing.
Damage resistances, all demons have that.
Yeah.
So and then the damage immunities to the non-magical, it's like, it's necessary at this challenge rating, but also at this challenge rating, you will, of course, be able to easily overcome it.
Right. I almost wonder why it's not just resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing flat out, and then immunity to non-magical damage, but that's not that important.
Sure. Right.
Condition immunities: charmed, charmed, exhaustion, frightened, and poisoned. And then has senses of true sight out to 120 feet, passive perception of 29. It knows all languages and has telepathy out to 120 feet. And then we get into the innate spellcasting. So, a couple of spells here. Got At Will, Detect Magic, and Major Image. The DC of which is 23 for all of these spells, by the way. Charisma's the spellcasting modifier. 3 times a day can cast Dispel Magic, Fear, and Telekinesis. I definitely like the Dispel Magic aspect. I think we talked about this with Baphomet as well. The ability to just drop people's spells because they're really screwing up your combat is great. Happens all the time as a DM where you're like, all right, it's going to be a good fight. And then somebody casts a single concentration spell that you're like, oh no, that's going to keep being very good, isn't it? Dispel Magic takes care of that 3 times a day.
Right. Pretty much, necessary for these high level ones. Like the boss fights.
Yeah. As for using like telekinesis, I get it from a flavor standpoint. I'd probably never use that in combat as the Demogorgon because it's like an entire action to cast and control it versus the damage it can put out with just its tentacle or its gaze is probably a better option. But then we get to the real killers, or killer at least, feeblemind. So feeblemind, if you're not familiar, makes it so that you blast the mind of a creature that you can see within range, attempting to shatter its intellect and personality. Takes 46 psychic damage and must make an intelligence saving throw. On a fail, the creature's intelligence and charisma score becomes 1, and it can no longer cast spells, activate magic items, understand language, or communicate in any intelligible way. Can identify friends, but otherwise it takes another 30 days to repeat this saving throw. Or, to even get the attempt to repeat it. Otherwise, it lasts another 30 days. And the spell can be ended by Greater Restoration, Heal, or Wish. So, pretty high stuff there. Great way to take down the caster in your party.
Sure. This always goes back to what we talk about, though. When the monster has this, it's like, it's a great way to do it, but is it going to be fun for that player? Because then they're just kind of out.
I think if your party has Greater Restoration... Yes. Like if you do it on the wizard and they fail, which they might succeed. And I think in a fight like this, you kind of just have to, it's such a weird thing, but like as a DM, you really do have to just throw that concept away of like, is this going to be a fun fight for them? It's like the stakes should be so high that being unable to act maybe doesn't feel fun in the fun way, but the challenge is necessary to feel like you're overcoming it. So is being feeble-minded fun? Not at all. Is getting feeble-minded and still winning fun? Definitely.
Sure. So the smart play there would then for Demogorgon to realize wizards don't get Greater Restoration. So feeble-mind like the cleric.
Yeah.
Who is also has the bad intelligence save.
Yeah, it's probably a much better pick. And then they can't, that's healing as well, just like taken out of the equation.
Right. They could go hit things with their mace. Get off that divine strike, I hope, and they're that type of cleric.
Finally. And so we talked about this, I think, before, where these don't require any material components. They still require somatic and verbal, and I believe Feeblemind has, V, S, and M. So definitely something you're trying to counterspell. If whoever you target, that hopefully it can be attempted to be counterspelled. This going off and getting the cleric, your main healer in the party, person who's got Revivify, person who has all of these lovely spells to get rid of these debuffs. If they get feeble-minded, it's going to be a hard fight.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be a TPK, to be honest. Depending on other circumstances,
possibly.
Whatever.
Right, yeah.
And I think that actually kind of goes into when you should do this. If you start the fight with this, you're kind of being a dick.
Yes.
Especially if you target the right character for it. You're kind of being a dick.
No, you're right.
Maybe halfway through. Maybe almost at the end. Maybe this is a thing that the party has to deal with post-adventure.
No, I think from a tension standpoint, less than a adversarial DM standpoint, 100%. You do this midway through. You do it after the cleric uses Revivify. It's a fantastic time to do it because it's having the Demogorgon. I'm going to keep saying the Demogorgon, and I'm going to stop correcting myself. And if that bothers you, then I apologize. But casting feeblemind on them after they use Revivify, after they use healing, whatever, at least halfway through the fight, they get one use of it off, and you show that, hey, this has made you a target. That's why it is trying to do that. And if the feeblemind fails, then I think attacks need to go towards that cleric, that healer, that bard, whoever it is that's doing this healing.
Interestingly, it's pretty unlikely that it's going to fail. Like, statistically impossible if they're not proficient in intelligence.
It's true.
Saving throws.
You're right. With 23, I mean, unless they're blessed. And even then, we're talking about rolling a 19 and having a 0.
And then a 3.
To their intelligence. Yeah. So it's
right.
19 and then a 4. Like, it's either a 20 and a 3.
and
Yeah, so it's very low odds.
Right.
Then we also have, once a day, Project Image, which I think they have another way of doing this, don't they? No, that's a layer action. Okay, sorry, I'm jumping ahead. But Project Image is not a spell that I think is commonly used, so I'll go over this one. 7th level, 1 action to cast, lasts for 1 day, so you can create an illusory copy of yourself that lasts for a day. Copy can appear at any location within range that you've seen before, regardless of any obstacles. It looks like you and sounds like you, but is intangible, and if the illusion takes any damage, the spell disappears. You can use your action to move the illusion up to twice your speed, make it move, talk, behave in whatever way you choose. And you can see through its eyes, hear through its ears, as if you were in its space. On your turn, as a bonus action, you can switch from using its senses back to your own, so it kind of can do some scouting. And while you're using its senses, you are blind and deafened. So for the most part, interacting with it in any capacity reveals that it is an illusion, but just trying to examine it is against the spell save DC. So what is Demogorgon going to use that for?
Trickery?
Trickery? Sure.
I don't know. Yeah, I know it's really vague.
It is. I mean, maybe it seems intimidating if you see Demogorgon walking towards you, regardless of whether or not it is a projected image or the real Demogorgon, you're going to run. So I guess being able to scare things without being near them, just terror, general terror.
Sure.
But that's about all I got. I don't see Demogorgon going into like any trade negotiations and needing to keep themselves safe.
Right.
Avoiding assassination attempts.
Right, yeah.
The range actually does kind of give it some power. It's 500 miles.
Right.
So it's obviously not teleporting, but it almost acts like you can project fear 500 miles away from where you are.
Sure. And I feel like there's uses for that, at the very least, to, as you say, scare people. You have it come near the town and people are like, oh my God, we're gonna get killed unless we, I don't know, make sacrifices to Demogorgon. And then it does so. And if they don't, then the real one comes. And now you have to deal with that.
Yeah, delivering, threats, messages of doom. I guess that's almost kind of tropey, actually, about like the big bad guy doing that to taunt the heroes, but like not actually being there. Like appears like in their in-room at night, like scaring the shit out of them, and like delivers some terrible taunts, and then poof, just disappears, and they were never actually there.
Sure. I guess one of the things that I have found slightly difficult, not just with Demogorgon, but like the Demon Lords as a whole, I feel like we're going to run into, is we played through Out of the Abyss. And if you have not played through Out of the Abyss, Demon Lords are a pretty big focus. But, and I hope this is no offense to you, Kevin, I did not feel like the Demon Lords had very much personality outside of Zuctamoy, who we did actually interact with a good amount. Demogorgon was like this spectral figure that we saw in like one interaction, and was terrifying and was a very big fight, but it wasn't like Demogorgon was delivering messages of doom in any capacity.
They were all in Out of the Abyss and how that was written, or at least my interpretation of it. Maybe I did miss something. They were all very monstrous.
Right.
They didn't come off as intelligent and clever and plotting. They were just kind of these monstrous creatures set loose in the Underdark and
right,
just kind of fucked shit up.
Yeah, they almost felt more like kaiju, like giant Godzilla-esque monsters.
Okay. Yes. Quite literally, I guess this one's going to have a lot of Out of the Abyss spoilers. The Demogorgon's introduction was the Kuatoa village.
Right.
And he was the big guy, and he came out of the water because it was on the edge of this giant underground lake, and roared and destroyed the village, and everyone fled. It was very, very, very Godzilla-esque. You were spot on with that.
Yeah, so if we're like in a different world where we're looking at this, it's charisma, it's intelligence, all of these things, it's like, yes, it so is chaos, but I feel like, and I am going to put this on the Out of the Abyss campaign now, where there wasn't a lot of the psychological terror. It was very much like demon lords are big, scary, and angry, and they will destroy whatever is in their path. Okay, that's scary, but they weren't like, there wasn't times where we'd see it. Like, that would have been a perfect time, is if we were in Gracklestug and the Demogorgon showed up, and it was the projected image and delivered an omen to this town, saying, if you don't submit, then whatever, I'll destroy you and I'll destroy everything. Okay, now we're getting into this, like, these are intelligent creatures with somewhat of a goal, at least.
Yeah. No, that was definitely missing. You're right. If I were to rerun it, I think I would incorporate that in more. I don't know if I just didn't pick up on it.
I wouldn't.
If it was how I ran it or how the book is, I'd have to reread it, and I'm not going to.
Yeah, I would not put that on you at all. You don't need that stress. The books in general, I feel like, lack at really that type of deeper setup. So that's just what a common theme I've seen. Every single pre-written campaign I have run, the big bad evil guy seems like a force of nature that is akin to a giant monster. Tiamat, for example, we ran the Storm King's Thunder, and that had like this dragon as the big bad evil guy, and there was very little conniving and scheming until it was kind of revealed in the last like 3 sessions. Not a lot of time to build up this thing as a character that needed killed. It was like, hey, by the way, here's this big bad evil guy. Can you guys go kill that for us? And you're like, oh, that's what's been causing all of our problems this entire campaign? That's not a really good way to deliver that.
Right. At least with Tiamat in the 2 campaigns that centered around her, it was her plan, at least. My understanding is she was giving instructions to like the cultists to bring her about and release her from the hells or wherever she was.
The 9 hells.
Yeah, but yeah, you were never interacting with her.
No.
I think that one was okay because Tiamat is such this large looming presence that is like by the time you actually see her, it's like, holy shit, here's Tiamat. We're doing this.
Yeah.
Where if she was like chit-chatting with you throughout, maybe that wouldn't work so well. But yeah, definitely other campaigns.
I guess.
Yeah, I think they could have served to have those big bad evil guys more present.
Yeah, what I'm really thinking is like anytime you can throw in a projected image or okay, here's a good example of a time where it was done right. Curse of Strahd. Curse of Strahd, the whole thing it tells you is that Strahd is supposed to show up and taunt the players constantly because he knows he's so much more powerful that these things aren't even a threat and he wants to toy with them. Okay, that's great. Now,
that was cool.
Obviously, as you said, Tiamat is not going to take time out of her very busy schedule to come down to a couple of adventurers who seem like they're got some pluck to tell them, hey, you're not going to succeed. But if you have some scenes where they walk in on cultists projecting Tiamat, communicating with her and hearing her and like overhearing this information, I feel like those are ways you can bring it out without having direct involvement.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's just my like suggestion to anyone running pre-written campaigns. I'm done running pre-written campaigns because they just frustrate me and I can't read an entire book and then fix all of the problems while also trying to run a D&D game. I'll just do it the way I want to. But a lot of people like running pre-written ones. bring in the big bad evil guy earlier. That's my biggest complaint with all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Where the heck were we?
Here's another project image. Here's another interesting point.
Yes.
Is it project image or is it project image?
That sounds like a video game studio.
I know. Yeah. There's no indication either way, and they're the exact same spelling.
I'm sure we'll never be able to figure this conundrum out.
Nope. It always bugs me every time I see the spell. I want to say like project image. Like, no, that's not right. It's probably project image.
It's definitely project image.
Yeah.
But do we need Matt Mercer telling us how the spells are pronounced now?
Yep.
Prestidigitation? What?
That would be so upsetting.
My claim to fame is that I can spell prestidigitation right every time I try and spell it. It's actually pretty phonetic.
I was going to say, yeah, very phonetic. Anyways.
Yeah, so next up on the stat block here, we've got legendary resistances. No surprise there. Most big enemies have this. Can choose to succeed a saving throw 3 times a day. I do.
When they fail. They always get to try it first.
Right. I will always stand by that. I hate this hold on there having to be 3 legendary resistances. If there is an enemy that should have more, give the Demogorgon 5. Like, they should not be failing a banishment saving throw ever.
Right.
Then we have magical resistance. So it has advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects. Well, because of this, they'll probably never fail a banishment saving throw regardless.
Right. Was that a charisma?
Yeah, charisma.
So a plus 15 at advantage. Yeah.
It's probably fine.
Yeah.
2 natural ones in a row. End of campaign. But another way to just keep this thing up and make sure that those single target save or suck spells aren't a big problem. The players should really be finding other things. This is going to be a war of attrition. It is not going to be one big moment that ends the fight. And this is stuff that I just learn from what's on here for making your own enemies. That's my advice. Like, when you see magical resistance and legendary resistances, that's because banishment will ruin your fight. So don't let them get banishment off. Magic weapons. So Demogorgon's weapons attacks are magical. No surprise there. And then it has the seldom used 2 heads passive ability. So it has advantage on saving throws against being blinded, deafened, stunned, and knocked unconscious.
The knocked unconscious one's always interesting. I can't think of any effect that's that. It's like they go to 0 and then they're unconscious. It's like there's no save, there's no roll for that. It's
Yeah.
like, what ability just knocks something unconscious?
Sleep. Which would be
Leap?
Did you say sleep? Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, you're not getting sleep off on Demogorgon.
no. Oh, yeah. What is it? A pool of 5d8, and then you do it based on, yeah.
You do get like a good amount more for every level you upcast it, but there also has to be... What's that?
You're not getting up to 406.
Well, not
also,
when
there's
it's
no
at full
save
health.
with sleep. Yeah, there's no save with sleep anyways, but it just happens.
Yeah.
Based on the damage.
Okay. Yeah,
okay. If you know any effects where there's a save against being knocked unconscious, let us know.
Yeah, please comment it up. I have been playing way too much Monster Hunter World recently, and that's all about fighting giant monsters. And that makes me think of some ability that allows you to like knock something unconscious by like bashing its head enough. And I don't know how unconscious works well enough, because usually it's just when you go unconscious, you're incapacitated, and that's it. You're doing death saving throws. But I could see a feature that I don't know rules is written that can knock a creature unconscious, and then the next hit wakes it up. That's not a thing rules is written, though. Just something that I might experiment with in the future.
All right. Moving on to actions.
Oh, okay. I thought you had more to say. Yes, moving on to actions.
No.
Do you want to take it?
Okay. Sure. So he has a multi-attack, makes 2 tentacle attacks. So this is a plus 17 to hit with a reach of 10 feet. On a hit, it does 3d12 plus 9 bludgeoning damage. And if the target is a creature, it must succeed on a DC 20 con save, or its hit point maximum is reduced by an amount equal to the damage taken. The reduction lasts until the target finishes a long rest, and if the hit point maximum is reduced to 0, the target just dies.
23 con saves, really high.
Yeah. Nothing crazy in the damage department. This actually does less in a turn than Baphomet, and where you kind of talked about where Baphomet seems a little low in damage, and Demogorgon is supposed to be stronger. Yeah, what average of 56?
Yeah.
Damage a turn, because that's its attack. That is its damage and attack. Then it does have legendary actions, which we'll get to, but I do feel Demogorgon needs to hit harder.
Yeah, and also I would probably throw in, it's got 2 heads. It has this massive gaping maw. It should be making bite attacks. It should be making stomp attacks. Look at those feet. Mm-hmm. It's got these giant,
So it's actually only huge. I definitely screwed that up. When I ran out of the abyss, I ran him as gargantuan.
Sure.
He was destroying towns and shit.
Right.
Which he was, but it was a Kuatoa town, which is little shanties, 2-foot tall shacks. That's why he could do it. And hindsight, he's only huge.
Huge is still really big.
It's big, but not
I forget the size chart. I need that little gnome to tell me the sizes again.
Right.
But we're talking about at least 20 feet tall. Right? That's what Baphomet was. So.
That's true. Yeah, huge is just shy of gargantuan, isn't it?
Yes. It's anything under gargantuan is considered huge.
Right. So large is 4 squares. And then you have huge, which takes up 8 squares.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. So that's 40 feet.
Yeah. So it can stomp on people.
Yeah, wide. Yeah, okay. And you're right. That is a big thing.
So it's got these giant talon claws on its feet, and it's no, we're not gonna let it do any of that. So easy way to add damage or add more attacks, and maybe only the tentacles do the constitution save if you want to change it up at your table, so that not everything is doing this massive hit point max drop where you've got 2 attacks. If those hit, which most likely they will, huge potential for max HP to go down, but then it's doing a kick or a bite, and great, you've got more damage on there and more damage types as well.
Right. Alternatively, leave him as is and make sure you're always fighting Demogorgon with other demons. He is the prince of demons.
Yeah, should have a couple minions, right?
Yeah. Do their own big damage.
But that's I guess I'm on the fence with that, because you're still trying to sell me, not you, obviously, but Wizards of the Coast is trying to sell me on a challenge rating 26. And even if we look at the legendary actions, it's doing really not that much more. I mean, we're looking at probably 90 damage around if it doesn't use its maddening gaze at all, if it's just focusing on damage. And I just don't feel like I'm too impressed by that when we're looking at probably level 15 plus adventurers.
Yeah, I mean, then again, when you say 90 damage around, that does definitely add up.
That's if all of it hits, there's no debuffs or anything.
And it's not doing anything else, right?
Right. Which it should be. It should be doing other things, like its gaze ability.
Right. So it has its gaze ability, and Demogorgon turns his magical gaze towards one creature that can see within 120 feet. The target makes a DC 23 wisdom save. Unless the target is incapacitated, it can avert its eyes to avoid the gaze and to automatically succeed on the save. If it does so, it can't see Demogorgon until the start of its next turn. If the target looks at it in the meantime, it must immediately make the save. If the target fails, the target suffers one of the following effects: the Demogorgon's choice or random. Before we get into the effects, I kind of hate how it has that avert its eyes thing. This is not uncommon. There's the Medusa has it, and I think Basilisk for petrification, and it shows up. For the challenge rating 26, Prince of Demons, Demogorgon, I don't think it should be such a simple thing. It would take its entire action. This is not part of multi-attack. This is all it would do on its turn. And you could simply just not look at it for a turn. And sure, then if you go to attack, you have disadvantage, but does that seem worthwhile for the challenge rating 26 Prince of Demons, the Demogorgon, to use his entire action to impose disadvantage on one PC's attacks.
Is it just ones? It'd be all PC's attacks, wouldn't it? Or can you?
No, it targets one character.
Okay. See,
towards one creature. So then, like, if it's like the fighter has 4 attacks, all 4 would be at disadvantage, but
yeah,
it's just the one.
No, you're right. I think you are correct. I think you should have to be averting your gaze before it uses its gaze ability. Whereas the way this is worded is, I say, Musty, I have the Demogorgon look at you, and Musty says, I avert my gaze. And then that's just it. Compared to making it more like, oh, you didn't avert your gaze already? Great. Demogorgon can look at you, and you don't have a way to save yourself now, sorry, besides succeeding on a saving throw.
Right. In addition to the disadvantage on attacks, spellcasters can't target Demogorgon if anything that requires sight. It says you can't see, which again is limiting, but still, I don't know anyone who wouldn't take that. It's like, oh, you're getting targeted. It's like, oh, I just avert my gaze and I'll do something else with my turn. And then the Demogorgon wasted their turn.
Charisma casters, maybe? Who like have proficiency in charisma saving throws and a high charisma.
Wisdom, but yeah. It's a wisdom save.
Oh, it's a wisdom save, sorry.
Wisdom casters.
Wisdom casters, yeah.
But still, is that really worth it?
Yes. Kind of.
Yeah, I was going to say, actually, these effects are not that terrible.
I mean, they're bad, but like at level 15, you bet I'm taking my chances against a 23 save DC, unless it's straight up killing me. Some of them are...
You would, as opposed to just averting your gaze. It's that you don't lose your turn. You just can't see Demogorgon for a turn.
I guess it definitely depends on the battlefield. If there's other enemies that I can try to attack instead, I'll probably do that. But if you're setting up this fight correctly, the demons are unending. That's not like a thing where it's like there's 3 demons on the field and then that's it. You're good. Just kill them and it's just you and Demogorgon. You should probably be bringing those things back anytime they go down, adding more every single round of combat. You need to kill Demogorgon or do something else, close a portal, whatever, in order to end this fight, progress this fight even. So I think for the sake of progress, yes, if I had plus 9 or 10 to my wisdom saving throws, we're looking at a 40% chance of success. Like, you gotta take it.
Yeah, it depends on the situation, but yeah. All right, well, here are the effects. So the Demogorgon chooses one of these 3, or you could roll it and make it random. Beguiling Gaze, the target is stunned until the start of Demogorgon's next turn, or until Demogorgon is no longer within line of sight. So, stunned for a turn. Like...
Not impressed.
I'm really struggling with this one. Like, monks get this at 5th level. Stun something for a turn. And they get to attack as they do it. So they get to hit something and then stun them from the hit.
All right. Little spoiler alert here. This is a legendary action as well. The only one of these that's worth using your action on is the Hypnotic Gaze, which cannot be done as a legendary action.
Right, so, okay. Yeah, Hypnotic Gaze, the target is charmed by Demogorgon until the start of Demogorgon's next turn. Demogorgon chooses how the charmed target uses its actions, reactions, and movements. Because the gaze requires Demogorgon to focus both heads on the target, he can't use his Maddening Gaze legendary action until the start of his next turn. So it's like Dominate Creature for a turn.
Yeah, that's worthwhile. And that, I'm just imagining so many rude ways to use that as the DM. If somebody's concentrating on something and you basically get to control their turn, you can say, you drop concentration. Yep, that's free. And now we're going to have you, or if you're concentrating on something worthwhile, sure, we'll have you attack. But even start the turn, let's just say a druid, because we just did the druid episode, so it's on my mind. Druid has Call Lightning up. Use the Call Lightning to attack teammates. And then at the end of the turn, you say, and I drop concentration. And then it's like, here you go, Druid. Here's your character back. You just lost your big spell and did a whole bunch of damage to your party.
Right.
Or you could just make the paladin go smite whoever's at the lowest health.
That too. 100% great ways to use it that are just mean.
Right.
That's the thing about this. It's such a reflective thing to do to a party. Like, the Demogorgon kind of sucks, but if your party's like super good, this is super duper good.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So we got into the duper territory.
Super duper.
All right, if we want to get really rules lawyery here, raw, I don't think you could just end concentration.
Why not?
Demogorgon chooses how the charm target uses its actions, reactions, and movement. Ending concentration is none of those three things.
Actions plural? Does that mean bonus action?
Oh, you're right. It is plural. That's... I would just let it. I'd let it have complete control over the turn. Free actions, bonus action, action. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
I know.
It's like...
It's in your nature. You can't help it. It's
right,
okay. You've got a problem. But... Even when you're sitting here saying that the Demogorgon's like, oh, it's not really living up to my expectations, you're like, wait. What if we can nerf it a little more, though?
Right.
Sure. So I there's a lot of ways to use that. It's a good one. And I feel like that's going to be tough to balance between whether or not you use the tentacles to just deal damage or try to use the hypnotic gaze. Because if you're using that enough, then players are going to just every time look away. They're not going to risk the saving throw. It's way too strong to even risk it.
Right.
So then, I don't think we've mentioned
That's
this.
a bad one.
What are the downsides of looking away explicitly?
You can't see Demogorgon until the start of his next turn.
Till the start of his next turn.
What?
So you have disadvantage.
The characters. Oh, wait. Hold on. That's one of those complicated wording ones, too. Unless the target is incapacitated, it can avert its eyes to avoid the gaze and to automatically succeed on the save. If the target does so, it can't see Demogorgon until the start of his next turn.
I assume
So
that's a
target or
Demogorgon's.
Demogorgon.
Demogorgon's
Yeah, because
turn.
they used his. They
because
would have used they.
It's his turn to start it in the first place. He makes
Right.
the gaze. So until the start of his next turn.
And that would be really dumb if it was the start of the PC's turn.
Yes.
Because I was like, what are you doing then?
Just next turn. Okay, I'm next in initiative. That was hard.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you cannot see a target, you have disadvantage on all the attacks. Any attacks from that target have advantage on you. But so maybe it's like a legendary action tail attack. And then any spells that require, a creature you could see, which is a whole bunch of them, you cannot do that with.
Say most
Those are kind of the
spells.
three big ones. Yeah.
Okay. So it's really a matter of whether or not the melee combatants think it's worthwhile to have disadvantage on all of their attacks and advantage against them for all attacks. And then for spellcasters,
Right.
whether or not they need to cast spells that actually look at Demogorgon. Like a
Right.
fireball, you can cast it next to Demogorgon, and it's going to do damage still.
So yeah, it goes back to it really depends on the situation.
It just doesn't feel that strong, though.
Right.
I'm not over the moon with it. We've got the armor class of 22, which is pretty high. But again, once you're level 15 or so, even at disadvantage, I feel like armor class of 22 is like, it's not crazy to try and beat that.
Mm-hmm.
You got probably plus 11 or 12 around that point, like plus 2 or 3 weapons, proficiency of 6, I think. I forget when that comes up, but plus 5 to your main stat, if not higher for some reason. Yeah, we're looking at plus 12, plus 13. So it's like a 50-50 shot of whether or not this hits. If my head math is even close to accurate, I'm going to take those odds and look away instead of getting controlled and killing my wizard and dumping my 5th level smite into the wizard. Spellcasters.
Right, and then the final.
Sorry, I'm still like spellcasters. I'm still on the fence with because they need to look at them for some of these spells.
Okay, and then the final effect, third one you could choose, Insanity Gaze. The target suffers from the effects of the confusion spell without making a saving throw. The effect lasts until the start of Demogorgon's next turn. This is not concentration for Demogorgon. Confusion spell is where at the start of your turn you roll a d10 and it determines what you do. From you do nothing, you run in a random direction, you make an attack at somebody near you, or you can just take your turn as normal, stuff like that. So again, I don't know if that one's worth the entire turn of Demogorgon.
No, that's a legendary action one for sure.
Right. But then is this worth doing over the tail attack?
At range, yeah. Or just if you're trying to shut down somebody specific.
Sure. Okay. So then again, just to wrap up the stat block, legendary actions. So the Demogorgon only has 2 legendary actions. Choose from the options. Like, it doesn't have the 3, which I don't get why. That's such a common thing. Like, you have like 3 legendary actions that some might cost more than 1 action. Demogorgon, Challenge Rating 26, Prince of Demons, just has 2. That kind of stuff upsets me.
I agree. And I feel like it should have 3, and Madden Engage should take 2 of those. So it could make 3 tail attacks if it wanted to. But realistically, it would do still 1 tail and 1 Maddening Gaze, which would mean the exact same amount like normally happening here. I guess it couldn't do 2 Maddening Gazes then, which I'm fine with. I don't feel like it needs to do 2 of those in a turn. And actually, I don't even know how that interaction works. If it's looking at one person and then they fail, can it then turn and look at another person and make them fail? Oh, it's got 2 heads.
Also, I don't think it's this ongoing thing. I think it's the gaze is like one effect. And then it's just kind of abstracted by looking away. And then if you look at him, it immediately comes into effect. I don't think he's like giving him the evil eye the whole time.
It'd be real intimidating, though.
Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, I think it's just kind of abstracted.
Laying on the stink.
But the legendary actions has a tail attack, which is actually different than the tentacle attack. Plus 17 to hit, 17 to hit, reach of 15 feet. Does 1 target, 2d10 plus 9 bludgeoning damage, average of 20, plus 2d10 necrotic damage. So average of 31.
Yeah, same thing here. I just feel like throw the tail in with the multi-attack. 2 tentacles and a tail, regardless of the legendary action stuff.
And then keep the legendary. And you give him 3 legendary reactions to 2, and I think that would be enough to beef that damage up to where it should be.
Yeah.
And then it could do a slim down Maddening Gaze. Demogorgon uses his gaze action and must choose either Beguiling Gaze or Insanity Gaze, the first or the second one, where they're stunned or confused for a round, not the Hypnotic where it's basically dominated.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. I feel conflicted.
It's too weak for what it is. So more Out of the Abyss spoilers here. You guys fought and killed Demogorgon at, it was either 14th or 15th level. He was supposed to be a slimmed down Demogorgon. Because like there was, you remember you bring in all the Demon Lords and there's this big fight and Demogorgon's the last one standing and then you have to take him out. But luckily he's weakened because he was in this big fight and he was like at half health and there was a couple other things. You burned him down in about 2 turns. And I silently went like, nope, he's at full health. he did not start this at half. He started this at full, and I gave him back the missing abilities, and then you still killed him.
Yeah.
And it ended up being a good fight, and it was a tough fight, and it was a tense fight, and I'm really glad I did that. But so you basically beat him 1.5 times. Challenge rating 26 at level 15. And you had taxed resources. You had a lot of battles leading up to that.
That's what I was about to play into. Is I'm trying to remember. I think all we were coming off of a short rest, if I remember correctly, because I think we did some things to ensure we could get a short rest, or you gave us one. I don't remember how it worked out. I don't think it was immediately after a fight, but we definitely were not like full resources. And yeah, that's fair. Now the only thing I will add is that I was also a paladin. I feel like a paladin changes this fight because the smites were something. That was like...
Yeah, we respect for demons.
We were. It was pretty generally spec'd out for demons, where it was like the wizard casting haste on the paladin to make sure that we were getting multiple smites off per turn. And the biggest downside was I had to throw away my super awesome weapon in order to, I think I had to use like a crappy greatsword, a regular greatsword for like the rest of the fight, which definitely hurt, but still being a paladin is like the Demogorgon antithesis.
It's also worth noting, because do you remember my rant on the previous Demon Lord Vomit?
No, why would I remember that?
Where there was that change from Out of the Abyss.
The conspiracy.
They nerfed the conspiracy to nerf the Demon Lords. And how that makes even less sense, because they weren't really great to begin with. and now they're even less threatening. And this is exact same case. Demogorgon has almost 100 more health. The damage is seriously increased in Out of the Abyss. I don't get why they thought it was necessary.
So I think you are onto something with this being a conspiracy. People generally consider 5th edition to be an easier edition. Nerfing the Demon Lords is a way that you can build large character moments and climactic campaign moments, but ensure that the players win more often. Players winning more often means they're enjoying D&D more. Enjoying D&D more means they're buying more books. It's that simple.
Damn.
Demon Lords aren't getting
nerfed.
They're getting nerfed because the easier D&D is, more people play. I don't know if that's true. We obviously play for the challenge.
Because people just balance it however they want. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. In Out of the Abyss in the appendix, he has 496 health, and Mordenkainen's, which is where we're kind of talking about here, 406. His tentacle attack is 35 versus 28. That's not a huge difference.
That's a huge difference. I disagree. Because it's max HP.
28.
It has
It's an average of 28 versus 35. It does an extra D12 of damage.
Right. We're talking about 2 of those per turn, both of them potentially taking from your max HP. That's an extra 14 damage that it is doing per round directly to your max HP. To me, that's pretty big. And I just noticed it does not have, unless Greater Restoration just automatically restores max HP lost.
I think that's in the spell.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
So either way, that's a pretty high level spell to burn to get max HP up to then try and heal somebody.
But yeah, Demogorgon, as written, absolutely needs a bunch of demon minions with him to make this the intimidating, scary fight it should be. Because like I said, I taxed you guys like crazy leading up to this fight, and re-healed him, restored all of his abilities that he wasn't supposed to have, and he fought him 1.5 times over, still bested him, all at level 15.
Now I'm curious how many of the fights you added beforehand were in the book, and how many you knew needed to be done in order for us to be weakened. It's been like 3 years since we ran that campaign.
Yeah,
so
I don't remember.
That's fine. But I definitely remember having to up
fights.
the difficulty of every single pre-written encounter.
Maybe if you fight Demogorgon in his lair, that's different. In Out of the Abyss, it was explicitly not his lair. Like, you drew him away from his lair, and so he didn't have any lair actions.
Right. And the lair being the palace called Abyssum, right? I'm reading it right now. I don't know it off the top of my head. Found in the lair of the Abyss known as the Gaping Maw. So this is just my segue into the lair actions. Demogorgon's lair is a place of madness and duality. The portion of the palace that lies above water takes the form of 2 serpentine towers, each crowned by a skull-shaped minaret. I don't know what that word means. I'm looking it up.
A tower topper.
Oh, this is such a thing that I know we've complained about before. The writers for D&D or just adventures, whatever, love using these words that just like, nobody would know that. Nobody knows what a minaret is unless you are an architect.
It's a tall, slender tower, typically part of a mosque with a balcony with a muezzin. Calls Muslims to prayer.
My uncultured ass. Let's pretend I don't have a ton of Arabic background in my blood, which I do. It's in Aladdin. In Aladdin, at like where they spend like a lot of that movie is at the top of one of these minarets, and I remember they have like a balcony outside that he flirts with. Princess
once you Google it and see, it's like, oh, I do know what that is. I just didn't know the name of it. Yeah. Anyways,
and they're skull shaped because they're edgy.
Right.
So their Demogorgon's heads contemplate the mysteries of the arcane while arguing about how best to obliterate their rivals. The bulk of this palace extends deep underwater in chill and darkened caverns. So that's a pretty cool layer that your players will never see. They might. I don't know. So layer actions. If you're not familiar with layer actions, big enemies who usually have layers get some special stuff they can do when they're on their home playing field. These are layer actions. On initiative count 20, losing ties, Demogorgon can take a layer action to cause one of the following effects, and 2 of these effects cannot be used in a row. The first one is...
There's only 2.
What's that? There's only 2. Yeah.
There's only 2.
So you gotta cycle them.
Alternate. Yep.
First one is Demogorgon creates an illusory duplicate of himself, which appears in his own space and lasts until initiative count 20 of the next round. On his turn, Demogorgon can move the illusory duplicate a distance equal to his walking speed. First time a creature or object interacts physically with Demogorgon, there is a 50% chance that the illusory duplicate is being affected, not Demogorgon himself, in which case the illusion disappears. So this is kind of like that project image. Like
it's more like mirror image.
It is more like mirror image. Right.
It's a toned down mirror image,
which is
because that one gets 3 illusions, and it's like I think you have like a probably 66% chance of hitting the wrong one at first.
Right. Yeah. This. I think the difference is that mirror image has no effect on spells.
That's a good point. I think it's attack rolls.
Like, even if you cast Hold Monster, what a great spell to use on Demogorgon. You cast Hold Monster.
Immune to paralyzed, yeah.
What's that?
He's immune. Oh, he's not immune to paralyzed. You could hold him.
I think the save is going to be difficult to pull off. But either way, you're casting it. There's a 50% chance you just don't even target the right thing. And in that case, it's not being physically interacted with, so it wouldn't even go away in that case. That's interesting. I don't know how this works.
Wait, so I don't know if this would impact spells.
Yeah.
Then. On his turn, Demogorgon can move the illusory duplicate to distance equals walking speed. The first time a creature or object interacts physically with Demogorgon, for example, by hitting him with an attack, there's a 50% chance the illusory duplicate is being affected. So actually, no, this doesn't.
That's why we read this stuff live, because you're going to make mistakes like I make mistakes, and you don't have a Kevin to correct you. So get yourself a Kevin.
Not this. I'm busy. Not this
one. So, yeah, I guess that wouldn't affect spells at all. It is then, like you said, worse than mirror image.
But, I mean, it's a free thing it does. It's a layer action. So, actually, I would say as far as layer actions go, it's only just going to do the one attack, though.
Yeah, just one.
Like, if you have multi-attack, the first attack, and it's only the first time, so if you... Yeah, that's not really that great.
No.
I would think it would be like, for the entire turn, it would, like, absorb all those attacks, but it doesn't.
Nope, just a single attack, which... very much has the potential to not be a big deal. If anything, you're just trying to, like, burn it down. Like, let's say, for example, okay, here's an interaction. How would you deal with a rogue calling for sneak attack? Because if they had, let's say, 2 attacks, like a lot of rogues end up getting, they hit the first one, do you ask them, like, are you using sneak attack? And if they say yes, you then... determine whether or not it hit the actual or the illusory one? Or do you let them know whether or not they hit the actual one and then claim sneak attack? I'm leaning towards the former. Where like where they determine and then they say yes, the boost, I'm using my sneak attack, and
then you roll and then you see which one it hits.
Right.
Yeah, I would same with Paladin Smites.
Yes.
Anything like that. Yeah, just because I mean Demogorgon desperately needs the boost. Let him have that one.
Cool. Anything else around that ability before I move on?
No.
Okay.
It's,
just making sure. Next one is Demogorgon casts the Darkness spell 4 times at its lowest level, targeting different areas with the spell. Demogorgon doesn't need to concentrate on the spells, which end on initiative count 20 of the next round.
This one's cool. I like this a lot. Demogorgon has true sight out to 120 feet, and so we can see through it for the most part. And then that's going to be a lot of chaos. 4 darkness spells popping up is quite a bit.
Yeah, that's a big area. I think it's 15-foot radius for each.
You're gonna ruin the party's turn.
Yeah. Okay, but isn't looking away from Demogorgon basically the same thing?
Yeah.
So it kind of just forces them to look away.
You're right, it does not pair well with maddening gaze.
It's like kind of important.
Oh boy. Come on, Demogorgon.
Get your shit together.
You're not living up to Prince of Demons hype.
So, yeah, I'm going to say that one's not actually too great.
Yep.
I'm really trying to think of like some way around this, but I got nothing. It's just meh.
Yeah, I mean, so this is anywhere in its layer. So this could be the type of thing where you're fighting your way to Demogorgon, and he's just doing this to make other battles harder.
Okay.
I don't think other demons usually can see through darkness, though. Magical darkness.
Demogorgon's
I'm
demon
not
scan?
sure.
That's
I don't know. Like, it's not listed, like, what are his demons. Oh, you mean just, like...
Yeah,
yeah.
Just
okay.
Like, please give it some use here.
Yeah. Okay, I am actually... Yeah, I'm blanking on what other demons would have.
I don't know. Demons are really kind of all over the place. It's not like devils, where devils have a consistency to them. Demons seem to be kind of their own entities.
No, it does not look like most demons have, like, could see through magical darkness.
Yeah. So, okay,
Yeah.
we're not doing great on these layer actions.
That's all of them.
Yeah.
I usually find layer actions to be pretty underwhelming.
Yeah.
Just in general.
I don't...
It seems rare when I see one was like, wow, yeah, that's really cool. I'm excited to use that.
I don't disagree. I feel like they to me, how I have successfully feel like I've used them is in ways that keep the battle longer, because that's what a lot of these big epic set pieces miss, is there's, 400 HP meat sack and the party does 200 damage per turn. That's lasting 2 rounds. That's not very impressive for a fight. So anything that separates the party in some way, like the ancient green dragon fight we'd had, that at least a couple of times, there was like a wall of vines that came up, and now you're unable to run towards the dragon or do whatever. It like ruins your turn in some ways in order to make you have to get around it or just wait until it clears. Stuff like that is where layer actions thrive. All of this stuff, the only thing that does that is the illusory duplicate, sure, but as we mentioned, it's one attack. There needs to be some things in here that cause a little bit more chaos. So
yeah,
I would be adding in a summon more demons ability, because that's not written in rules. Rules is written, so I'd probably put in something along that line. And I'd probably take out the darkness one. I don't know what I'd replace it with, but something. I don't know. Lava pits appear. Like anything.
Right.
Doesn't have to make sense.
Something water-based.
Yeah, that would make more sense.
Really hot water pits.
Really hot water. like
the hottest water.
Yeah, like calming hot tubs.
212 degree water.
Does it get hotter than that?
No,
Oh.
then it turns into steam.
Steam pits then. Genius.
Steam pits.
So, yeah, the confusion spell, the ability to cast that.
Sure. That's perfectly fine. Like it. Anything. I don't know. Spread your creative wings, DM. Think of something.
One of his eyes appears somewhere to be able to do maddening gaze from different angles, and maybe
like the beholder.
If you're already impacted, yeah. And if you're already impacted from like looking away, you can't also look away from that one.
Ooh, that I like. That's good. That's a big FU.
Right.
You averted your gaze at nope. Roll that save, buddy.
Another one. Yep.
All right. You want to take regional effects? Bring us home?
Sure. So the region containing Demogorgon's lair is warped by his magic. Creates the following effects. The area within 6 miles of the lair becomes overpopulated with lizards, poisonous snakes, and other venomous beasts. Beasts within 1 mile of the lair become violent and crazed, even creatures that are normally docile. If a humanoid spends at least 1 hour within 1 mile of the lair, they must succeed on a DC 23 Wisdom saving throw or descend into madness, determined by the Madness of Demogorgon table, which we cover in a minute. If they pass it, they can't be affected again by that for 24 hours. Regional effects are usually more just flavor.
Yes. This one...
With the exception of the madness.
Just the within 6 miles becomes overpopulated with lizards, poisonous snakes, and other venomous beasts. I mean, I guess that could be like a direction to go with for random encounters if you wanted to do that. But otherwise, it's just kind of like purely just a flavor thing to drop. You notice a lot of snakes.
Right.
Moving on.
Right. But it's a little weird on this one. All the Demon Lord layers where they like, it sounds like the regional effects are impacting the material plane, but their layers are not on the material plane. They're in the abyss, which is an infinite realm of chaos. It's like, so you're not going to like be walking through. It's like, oh, in this infinite realm of chaos, there's a bunch of snakes around. Oh, how crazy. It's like the entire area is crazy. This entire realm is crazy.
It's like the craziest thing that they've seen in weeks. Just walking along like, oh yeah, the abyss really not as chaotic as, oh my god, is that an overabundance of lizards, poisonous snakes, and other venomous beasts? Oh my.
So I think you would have to play it as a portal to his lair opens up in the material plane.
Okay.
And demons are pouring through. It's an issue. And the magic emanates from the portal.
Yes.
And it's probably the case of all Demon Lord layers. I don't know if we really cover that with Baphomet. So it's retroactively applying that to Baphomet too. Because there was to talk about, like, when would you really fight these things in their layers? Because if they're just hanging out in their lair, then who cares? It's the abyss. Like, no one wants to go there. Let them fight over it.
Right.
This is a perfect plot hook. They go to the Adventuring Guild. They're like, all right, let's pick up whatever's on the board. Only thing on the board is like, there's a fuckload of snakes in the woods. Somebody needs to take care of this. And they're like, all right, and they're bashing snakes. And then they come to the source of the snakes, and it's a portal to the abyss.
And they're just like,
reward is still 12 gold.
But their sense of adventure, really, it forces them to go through the portal.
Right.
I mean, if you're not entirely wrong in the sense of that would be an all right setup to a campaign, a couple month campaign. If they're like, I think I like that comical start. That really does sound funny.
Right.
I would find that hilarious because I feel like your players would very much so be weary of you as a DM being like, yeah, there's a bunch of snakes. And then they go and they find like, oh wow, we just had a 20-minute combat just killing snakes. Like, you really just prepared us killing snakes. And then, haha, here's a portal. Start to the campaign. There you go.
Right.
Good bait and switch, I guess.
Sure. And then maybe you would need within the layer where the Demon Lord, in this case Demogorgon, resides, is the key to closing the portal. And so you do need to figure that out, B, gathering strength to be able to do this, and then C, actually go in and execute that plan, which will involve fighting the Demon Lord and interacting. I think that's probably the best way to handle it.
Until you find out at the conclusion of the campaign that the reason why Demogorgon didn't come out of the portal, fear of snakes. You just took care of all them snakes for him.
Right?
Somebody finally killed all these snakes. Thank God. That'd be great.
What god would Demogorgon pray to?
Probably himself.
Himself?
Yeah. Thank Demogorgon.
Thank Demogorgon.
Anyways, madness effects.
Yeah, just to wrap it up real quick, all Demon Lords have this. There's madness in the Dungeon Master Guide. It's usually like this tiered thing of short-term madness, longer term, and then indefinite. If you go mad within the presence of the Demon Lord or succumb to the regional effect, you get just an indefinite. It's a new flaw that lasts until it's cured, which a greater restoration could actually do, so it's not crazy hard to get rid of. But these are pretty big character-changing flaws. Stuff like, someone is plotting to kill me. I need to strike first to stop them. There is more than one mind inside my head. There's only one solution to my problems. Kill them all. Like, pretty big, radical things.
Yeah, madness is definitely a weird one. And I don't know how much we talked about it with Baphomet, but
quite a bit.
I think, quite a bit. So I won't go into it a bunch. So check out the Baphomet video if you want to hear more about madness, so that I don't say points that I've already said and bore people.
Right.
Overall,
yeah, that's, like I said, it's too weak for who he is. Like, I would think Demogorgon should be near unbeatable. You need to be like a party of level 20 PCs who are like work great together and come up with awesome idea to actually be able to destroy Demogorgon. And it's just not the case.
Yeah. Yeah, to me, this is like where it should be for Demogorgon weakened state. Like you were talking about how at the end of Out of the Abyss, this is like, oh, you did everything right? Great. This is the state you get to fight him in. But at his highest, it should just be stuff that, like, if the PCs saw, they'd literally be like, how are we? Like, we can't beat that. Like, yeah, 30 AC and plus 25 to hit and does 50 damage per hit and stuff. You're like, that's crazy. I can't beat that. That's the point.
Right. Yeah, exactly what Horde of the Dragon Queen and Rise of Tiamat did. Which that campaign had so many issues, both in how it's written and how it's ran for us. And so we were destroyed. Yeah, like 3-year campaign and just absolutely destroyed because we didn't get a single weekend thing. But that in its core is a good concept.
Yes. Not bitter about that at all.
No.
Can't believe I kept playing D&D after that.
Yeah, that wasn't a good one.
It's funny though because Tiamat actually does a lot of the things that they're just not done anywhere. It's challenge rating 30, armor 25. That's friggin' nuts, and it has 5 legendary resistances.
Yep,
and 5 legendary actions. This is
right,
just...
and I feel like that's what Demogorgon needs. That level of absurdity, and then you need to do things throughout the campaign to be able to bring that down to a state where you could beat him. Like if you did absolutely everything perfect and you did all 10 things that you could possibly do, even the super secret hidden ones behind like the locked doors, this is the level of Demogorgon you should get then.
Yeah. And something that we haven't brought up, or at least didn't bring up with Baphomet, is that I think these monsters could definitely be revisited officially and given mythic combats, and that's the stuff that I think is missing. And maybe we can throw the link in because we actually did a review of a homebrew mythic encounters thing that like reworked a bunch of big monsters like this to include mythic combats, and I get the feeling that Demogorgon's in there. I just don't remember. I'm pretty sure all of the Demon Lords were. Just might be a good place to start. The mythic encounters or combats, whatever they're called, mythic monsters, that's how it's summarized. It's just such a cool concept that I really wish they started the game with. Basically, the idea, if you're not familiar, it was added in Theros, is once
Mythic Odyssey of Theros.
Yeah. Once a creature like this gets down to 0 hit points, you basically unlock round 2, and it gets additional abilities, it gets like mythic actions, it gets its entire health pool back, and it's made for these giant, long, epic set pieces. And that's where I think we're really going to keep seeing these fall flat. It's like, yes, sure, it's challenge rating 26, it feels big, but where's the oomph? And I think that mythic fight really gives the oomph.
Has there been any mythic monsters since that book has been published?
No.
Have they used it again?
No. They made 3 and then dropped the concept for whatever reason.
Like, I wonder if there's any within like adventures that we're not running, so we didn't like buy them and read it.
Not that I've heard of, but that's a good question.
Yeah, let us know. Yeah, if anyone knows of.
It's a concept that I have used in a fight that you guys never ended up doing and probably won't at this point. I made an entire mythic version of Father Vernon. Yeah. So like his stat block is stupid. One day I'll show it to you guys. It was a Way of the 4 Elements revised with a Wild Magic Surge sorcerer. And obviously I'm the DM. I made all of the stats super high because I can. And it was absolutely silly. And then had a mythic
that sounds amazing.
Part. So
yeah.
You
have to share that at some point.
Yeah. Now that it's not going to happen.
Campaign's done.
Yeah. Now that I know it's not going to happen.
It might. I don't know.
Whatever. That's not a conversation
yeah.
for here. What is a conversation for this show, though, is our friends, the Crafty Gamers. This is another one of our affiliates. They provide high-quality D&D themed candles, soaps, t-shirts, and more. So you can use the candles to set the mood of your game, or just show off your neat D20 soaps to your friends as they all smell you and say, yeah, you do smell like a barbarian. I stole that tagline. I didn't make this one up. So check out Crafty Gamer and use the code MM10 to get 10% off your order. Candles, soaps, t-shirts, great stuff. And that's it. Oh, patrons, I almost forgot you. I'm going to list your names now. If you're still listening, patrons, don't forget. We love you. Jeth W, Joe P, Vincent M, Isaac M, Sentinel D20, Star Shinobi, Adam A, Home Bakery, Ed G, Bob F, and Craig A. Thank you all so much for continuing your support of our show, and you're awesome. That's it. Go you. If you want to support the show, go ahead and head on over to monstersofmulticlass.com/support.
Cool. As always, thanks for watching.